Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers, and welcome to 2019. On the program this week, an update on cattletrace.org with their CEO, Brandon Deppenbush. Also, registration for Soybean Schools around Kansas are now open. We'll preview the agenda with K-State's Stu Duncan. And 2018, a banner year for protein exports. What's in store for this year? We'll have a conversation with President-elect of the U.S. Meat Export Federation, Cevan Jones. The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919, kfb.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leading in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online, kswheat.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future of Kansas corn. Online, kscorn.com. Welcome back. We're now being joined by Brandon Deppenbush, who is the chairman of the board of Cattle Trace, as the pilot program beginning here in the state of Kansas. And so earlier we talked a little bit about kind of how the thing got going and kind of how it's up to now, but maybe let's take a little step back. And you're also part of a feeder group, and talk about how this thing kind of came together. You've got feeders, you've got processors, and you have livestock markets. And talk about some of those original meetings and how we've got to this point.
Yeah. First, thanks for having me, and I appreciate your interest in our pilot project, and look forward to sharing more with you. But yes, absolutely, we have a lot of great partners, feed yard partners, sale barn partners, packer partners, cow-calf partners. And I think how it all come together is a lot of luck and timing. I think we're living in a different environment now that people are a little bit more comfortable talking about this stuff, a little bit more comfortable with technology. And all of our partners that we have in the pilot project have a shared vision for disease traceability. They all understand that it's not, we will have a traceability system someday if we have a disease outbreak. And this is an opportunity for us to build it on our terms that fits best for each one of us in our segment. So we all have a seat at the table to define what that process, what that traceability system looks like. The alternative would be is that we react. Mm-hmm. We got to react to a disease outbreak, and then we're forced into a disease traceability system.
So we've talked maybe how it's gotten to this point, but let's talk about practicality. How it works in the feedlot, how it works in the process from you being a feeder.
Yep. So how it works to me, in a feed yard, for example, we have a reader network, readers that mount on an alley system and in a hallway, if you will, hallway for cattle. And it's no different than our K-tag that we're all familiar with, right? It's a speed of commerce, right? We can drive right on through that K-tag. We don't have to stop. And that's quite a bit different than the old technology, low frequency tag. That's like the toll booth, right? You have to stop, you have to exchange information. This allows us to freely move through that. So in the feed yard system, we would have a reader network, and the animals just run by, walk by, 110,000 at a time, and we'll just catch all of those EIDs at one time.
So as far as cost, has this been a cost of doing business, or has the cost been any sort of an impediment that you have seen?
Yeah, it's every time you do something new, there's a little bit more cost to it. So we did invest, and our partners invested in readers to their system. For instance, we've invested a couple different feed yards for this reader network. We see some additional value to these readers, just inventory control, real-time inventory control as animals pass by a reader. There's an opportunity for a drug residue to manage that. You know, we have an obligation and responsibility to make sure all the animals we ship to harvest are clear to ship, safe to ship. This is a backup system. If an animal walks by there that's not safe to ship, we're able to identify it more quickly. So there's some value-add opportunities that we see at the feed yard level that's on top of just the disease traceability and cattle trace.
How quick will this continue to spread throughout Kansas? Is there a goal of getting everybody involved that's in the supply chain, if you will?
Yeah, we want to continue to grow partners. We're always looking for more partners in each one of those segments, and it's important that they have a shared vision for traceability and for the future of that. As far as the timeline, I wouldn't know what that is. All I can tell you is we get a lot of interest. Okay. Most every time producer meeting we go talk to, So there's some questions, and that's great. We love questions. We want you to challenge us because that makes us better, and it helps us better define the pilot project. And all our partners that are at the table have a seat at that table to define what that system is. So those questions help define that pilot project.
Again, the best way they can find more information quickly at their own pace is?
Cattletrace.org would be the best place to get a hold of us.
Brandon, appreciate your time. Thanks a lot. Look forward to learning more.
Thank you, Ken.
Brandon Deppenbush, who is the chairman of the board of Cattle Trace, has joined us. We'll have more coming up. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web, oldeseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. Grassandgrain.com. And Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. More at ksgrainsorghum.org. And joining us now is Stu Duncan with K-State Research and Extension, and we're going to spend a few moments talking about the annual soybean schools that are coming up. Stu, we want to have you on because the deadline's fast approaching to get people to register. So let's first talk about these schools and some of the things that are going to be covered.
Sure. Again, what we will start the 15th of January is our first one, and this year we've changed our format. We have 9 of these this year across the state. We're with Kansas Soybean Commission is our sponsor, and they have requested that we do one in each crop reporting district. Soybeans were a crop that normally you just saw east of the Flint Hills, and since the late 90s, after their Freedom for Farm bill went through, we've seen them go further and further west, and quite frankly, our state winner last year was from out in the Hoxie or
Sherman County, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
First 100 bushel beans
that
we've had in the contest. So yeah, we can grow soybeans in western Kansas. We can do it quite well. And that's one of the reasons, as they're moving west, that the Soybean Commission was really interested in expanding that for us. So it's a whole new frontier, essentially. We start in Wichita, we'll do, and then go to Parsons, and we're doing them. There will be 2 a day on most of these simply because of the logistics. We're not going to have, we'll have an intense production program, but it's not going to be a full day. We'll be doing half days in these places this year. So there's a couple fewer speakers, but there's still a lot of good information with new stuff, with new information that we're generating, not just here but elsewhere, especially as we move west in the state. I mean, you've got a whole new set of issues to deal with, or opportunities with, let's say, high pH soils. They're mostly going to be irrigated out there. It'd be great if western Kansas got the rain they've got the last 3 years. It'd be great if eastern Kansas would have had it this year too, but that's just what it is.
Are there some highlights, some main issues you're going to be focusing on in all these?
Yes, absolutely. There's soil fertility basics are just still something, and they're going to be different, obviously, as we go west in the state. And again, those challenges, the soil fertility. There's also, we are seeing responses now to sulfur statewide, or at least the eastern half of the state. Some of our nutrients that were considered to be more of the micros, that's what we're going to be getting into. Insect pressure has come along with this, with no-till and with the newer rotations. There's new things that are happening. The disease pressures haven't really, we will have some plant pathology. That's going to be in a limited part of the state where we generally have higher humidity. Production practices, the row spacing issues, and weed control, of course, that's number one, no matter which part of the state you're in.
All right, so Stu, in order for folks to register and find out kind of the exact locations of the dates and times and when they need to register by, how can they find that?
Well, several ways, Ken, but if they are, their county extension office is the first place to go to. If they are not a subscriber to the agronomy e-update newsletter, and they can be if they contact their county agent or district agent, they can receive that information. But we have a flyer in there, and that will announce that it's online as well. We really would like the registration to be in a week before the scheduled dates, and those first ones are January 15th, so you need to get after it and look at it. The meal and breaks and such are supplied or sponsored by the Kansas Soybean Commission. They're putting it on, but we need a count for the folks that are there. But your local county extension office can get you plugged into that too.
All right, Stu Duncan with K-State Research and Extension has joined us. Those soybean schools coming up very quickly, so go online and get registered. So we'll have more coming up in just a moment. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. And AgView.net, covering news and views in the Beef Belt and Western Corn Belt. Reliable and relevant, AgView.net.
Imagine having someone help you pick the best corn hybrids for every field on your farm. Your Oldie representative can combine your data with his data to offer a field-by-field prescription. Contact Oldie Seed today at 877-692-4555.
This Medford, New Jersey school bus runs on biodiesel, and so do these. In fact, all of these buses run on clean-burning biodiesel, which is great because the more we use biodiesel in our heavy-duty vehicles, the less carbon pollution in our air. Think how great it would be if more of our school buses ran on biodiesel. More biodiesel, less carbon pollution. More is less. Biodiesel, America's advanced biofuel.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
Joining us now is Cevan Jones, who is the president-elect of the U.S. Meat Export Federation. He's a cattle feeder from Idaho. And Cevan, a lot of good things to talk about. Yeah, I mean, overall, we may have some challenges with our prices, but boy, we've been moving a lot of protein.
Oh yeah, and we needed to, right? So we got record production in poultry, pork, beef. So we need to move some product overseas, and we've been doing that. So we're going to have a record year in for beef. Looks like we'll top $8 billion in exports this year, and double-digit growth in a lot of markets. Japan, Korea, Taiwan being our big markets that we've been really moving a lot of product into.
It is. The reports we get every month, it just seems like a near record, or we're above what last year was a record year as well. So
absolutely,
to keep building on that is tremendous, and it's good that we don't have the freezers full, but we're actually a way to move that.
Yeah, and especially with the headwinds we've had this year, right? So the pork guys have taken a lot more of the brunt of the trade issues that we've had, especially in regards to China and Mexico. But the beef side, we've enjoyed some really good movement. Right now, that's equating to about $320 per head of cattle produced here in the United States. So good return for our dollars invested overseas and getting that product moving.
The tariff situation, of course, has created a little bit of angst about, okay, what are we going to do with all this product? But you continue to work through, and there are some places, though, that we continue to see good news, especially Korea.
Yeah. So the Korea FTA was redone this year. We've got great access to Korea. And it shows because our products are moving over there and seeing great growth. Taiwan's another one, we've got good access into, seeing great movement there too.
What's the biggest challenge right now?
I think moving forward, the biggest challenge that we see is that the TPP countries, the 11 countries, are going to have that agreement ratified, looks like, by the end of the year. and we're concerned because that's going to give them a very large competitive advantage via the tariffs into Japan. So we're at 38.5%, which has been the rather high, but historical norm. And as we move forward into 19, our competitors, mainly Australia and New Zealand, are going to have a pretty good tariff advantage, about 12% differential in tariffs. And every year that we don't have an agreement with Japan, that spread is going to get wider and wider. So it's going to keep us at a pretty good disadvantage. And obviously, Japan's one of our number one markets.
Right, absolutely. Well, appreciate the update, Kevin. Great story to tell, and thanks for your leadership and other producers of all the species that are involved in it. So it's always good to hear good news.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you very much.
Kevin Jones, who's president-elect of the U.S. Meat Export Federation, has joined us. We'll have more coming up.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
What if sustainability were synonymous with U.S. soy? If energy efficiency, water quality, and soil health help define U.S. soy's value, that future is here, the time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is committing to sustainability that's achievable, worthwhile, and enduring. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
The phrase heard around the agriculture world is tell your story. Today, most Americans are 3 generations removed from the farm, so tales from the tractor are more important now than ever. Wheat farmers saw this need, and their conduit of conversation, eatwheat.org, is celebrating its first year of operation. Eat Wheat allows the wheat industry to speak with one voice in an effort to reclaim the national conversation on wheat and share one primary message amongst numerous influencers, while we dismantle the false promises of wheatless diets. After a year of operation, the good news is that the conversation is working. Eat Wheat's Facebook follower count now ranks in the thousands, and Instagram is ever growing. Videos produced sharing the story of American agriculture have garnered tens of thousands of views. Fast-paced videos showing quick and easy wheat-based recipes have amassed more than 70,000 views on Facebook alone. But the real value in the social media world is the conversations that have been had with consumers who simply want to know where their food comes from. Eat Wheat's standout traffic performer for the first year was Pinterest. The popular Pinterest account has garnered around 3 million views per month on the wheat-based ideas shared on our feed. Now is the time to have these conversations with consumers. Wheat foods consumption is on the rise for the first time in several years. To learn more about the Eat Wheat project, visit eatwheat.org.
My name is Stephen McLeod. I'm from Harvey County. I live north of Newton. I serve on the Kansas Farm Bureau Board of Directors representing the 4th District. In our case, in my district, which is the 4th district of Kansas Farm Bureau, we have the largest of the counties, that being Sedgwick County, all the way down to among the smallest. So we have an extremely wide range of population. In fact, we have the city of Wichita within our district. Therefore, the grassroots, the development of our political endorsements is very important in our district because we have the urban and we have the really ultra-rural. So it's very interesting to see how it all comes together. I am certainly proud of our history, but I think sometimes we lose track of the fact that, that heritage is what propels us to the future. Sometimes the further back we look is the further ahead in the future we can look at. Some of the problems that we face today, for example, an issue that I've been working on quite a bit is the rural broadband, the rural communication issue. I've heard some equate that back to the rural electrification of the 1930s. Today's world, that is an entirely similar comparison because that really is vital in the rural areas today. So I think as we look back in our history, we see certain milestones that have come along in that regard, yet we're facing somewhat the same today. Sometimes the more things change, the more they stay the same.
The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919, kfb.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leading in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online, kswheat.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future of Kansas corn. Online, kscorn.com.
What if sustainability were synonymous with U.S. soy? If energy efficiency, water quality, and soil health help define U.S. soy's value, that future is here, the time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is committing to sustainability that's achievable, worthwhile, and enduring. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
All over the country, more and more communities are making the change to biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil. And the decision continues, improving the health and welfare for millions of Americans while adding billions to our national economy.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Following years of uncertainty related to the 2015 Waters of the U.S. rule, the Trump administration last week proposed a more clear and understandable definition of federal authority under the Clean Water Act. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, the proposal would protect the nation's navigable waters, help sustain economic growth, and reduce barriers to business development. The proposal provides clarity to the regulated community, including farmers and ranchers, about where Clean Water Act applies and where it does not. It would limit jurisdiction to perennially and intermittently flowing waters. Features such as ephemeral streams, most roadside or farm ditches, prior converted cropland, and depressions containing water only after a rainfall event would not be classified as a water of the U.S. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association advocated for a new water rule that was easy to understand and implement. According to the organization, organization, the proposed rule would protect private property rights, delegate the appropriate role of the federal government in regulating waterways, and restore state and local authority to protect water.
The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leading in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online, kswheat.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future of Kansas corn. Online, kscorn.com.
Good morning. I'm Eric Osterhaus with Paragon Ag Advisors. Well, it's goodbye 2018 and hello 2019. Most will agree that 2018 was a challenging year, but of course really isn't every year challenging. However, 2018 did throw a lot at us. We suffered a difficult weather pattern for much of the year, but of course the biggest market news, which is an ongoing one, is the trade tensions between the U.S. and China. Unfortunately, the trade issues are going to follow us into 2019 and will require us to continue to try to find a way to navigate the uncertainty that this issue has caused. It seems as if we're starting to find a way forward, although the pace is slow, and honestly, even if some sort of resolution is found, undoubtedly our international trade has been damaged and it's going to require some time to return to a more normal footing. Soybeans will likely react bullishly to any positive news on trade, especially if a more lasting solution is agreed upon. However, it's probably wise to remember that there's an awful lot of soybeans waiting in the bins out there, and the country is still waiting to sell those rallies. We have a very burdensome supply of beans both in the world and the U.S., and that might effectively cap some of our moves higher. It's time to aim for singles and doubles and leave the home run swings for a later time. Corn remains trading in a comfortable range. It really needs soybeans or crude or some other outside market to really carry it higher, at least until we get into the normal weather trade, which is some months away. The wheat market also continues to mark time as we're in the seasonal doldrums. It likely takes some friendly news from the Black Sea area to carry us higher. As always, if you have questions on these or any markets, call us today at 888-452-8751. Have a productive day.
Well, that's our show this week. Be social with us at kansasagreport.net. Follow us on Twitter and like us on our new Facebook page, Kansas Ag Report. Next week, coverage from the Soybean Expo in Topeka. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching the Kansas Ag Report. We'll see you next week.